Welcome to another episode of A Fistful of Lenses. In this episode, we take a closer look behind the Iron Curtain to a lens from the USSR, the Jupiter 9, which is an 85mm lens with a maximum aperture of f2. For this review, I'll be using the Sony A7R Mark III and the Fuji X-T1, and I'll be using a combination of these cameras with the Jupiter 9 to shoot video and stills. As always, I'll be showing the results straight out of camera, without any editing or colour grading, so you can see the full character, strengths and weaknesses of this 50-year-old lens. For the technically minded of you out there, the lens optical construction is 7 elements in 3 groups. The lens has 15 aperture blades and a close focus of 0.8 meters. The lens weighs in a substantial 353 grams and accepts convenient 49mm filters. This version was made in the M42 mount and came to market in 1975. So what was the world like in 1975? Well, let's take a trip together down memory lane. In 1975, the world's first digital camera was invented by Kodak engineer Steven Sasson. It weighed 8 pounds and had a 0.01 megapixel sensor. Surely that would never catch on. 1975 was also the year when Fawlty Towers was first aired on our TV sets. And also in 1975, my uncle invented a new game where the dartboard was placed on the ceiling. It didn't catch on, it made everyone throw up. So that was the world in 1975, when you could buy this lens new in the shops. But what about today, 50 years on? Can the lens still be of use? Well, let's first look at why initially I was disappointed. Shot wide open, it's about as sharp as a butter knife. Contrast drops and gives a washed out image. And when shooting into the light, there's more flares on show than a 1970s discotheque. I almost gave up, but decided to persevere. After all, I read that Greg Fraser had used a rehoused copy of this lens in filming Batman and Dune 1 and Dune 2. Those are films with massive budgets. There must be something good about the lens, right? Well, sort of. It's the sort of lens best described of as having a split personality. As I've already mentioned, when shot at wide open at f2, it's soft. But then again, that could be used to give flattering portraits. And like most lenses, stopped down to f5.6 or f8, you get a nice sharp image. At f8, it's capable of giving a very sharp image, as these shots of the woodpecker show. So lack of sharpness at f2, I can forgive. And the low contrast look that the lens gives you at f2 can be just what you're after, occasionally. Again, contrast increases nicely as you stop down the aperture. And the third optical flaw, those 1970s looking wild flares, this too could occasionally be an artistic asset. I was beginning to see why cinematographers like the aforementioned Greg Fraser use vintage optics. It's not because they are perfect or better than modern lenses. It's not because they're without flaws. Quite the contrary. It's because they are imperfect. They are flawed. In a word, they are interesting. They can give your images and video a subtly different look, lifting a scene from the ordinary. And then you can stop the lens down to f8 and it can mimic most other lenses, giving an almost modern look. almost. So as we continue looking at the images I got with this half a century old optic, let's get a little more information about this old lens. After World War II, the Soviet Union acquired the Zeiss factory and its technical drawings as part of war reparations. And that can be seen in the DNA of this lens, the Jupiter 9 being based on a pre-war Zeiss Sonnar 85mm f2 lens, production of which started in various guises from 1949. The technical resolution of the lens is said to be 32 lines per millimeter in the center and 23 lines per millimeter in the corners. Ouch, that is low. It's certainly not a lens known for sharpness, but on the positive side, it does exhibit nice circular bokeh across the aperture range, thanks to those 15 aperture blades. I would describe the colour palette of the lens as neutral, more suited to skin tones and portraiture, and that neutral colour palette is probably a plus when colour grading video, so I can see why it's a favourite for cinematographers and for portrait photographers. So as we look at some more videos shot with this old Soviet era lens, what are my final conclusions about this 50-year-old optic, a lens that almost made me give up when I was testing it? Just to be warned, you're going to need a little patience. It's quirky, sometimes frustrating to use, temperamental even, but it's never boring, and occasionally its optical quirks will be just what you're looking for a particular scene or image. And that in its essence is what I find fascinating about trying out different vintage lenses. It's their imperfections that sometimes come together in just the right way. And in the hands of a master cinematographer like Greig Fraser, it can be just the right tool for a specific job. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and ring that bell, and then who knows, maybe we'll see each other out there in the real world, snapping away happily with a fist full of lenses. Until next time, bye for now.